I, 27F, am 8 months pregnant and my, 28 meters, husband wants to live the van life. I'm 36 weeks pregnant and my husband and I had a huge argument yesterday. He wants to live in a van now so we can travel to more places, and I told him that was ridiculous. He told me has always supported me and I haven't supported him on the one thing has passionate about, has never talked about this before. I told him there won't be enough space, especially with a baby. He said you only live once and he wants to see the world. He said COVID made him realize that. I told him I was not going, and I told him I was staying at a friend's house for a couple days. He blocked the door and told me I had to make a decision. I left, and it's been 3 days and I'm going back after him continually spamming my phone. He said that I could even give birth in the van if I wanted to bring it good energy. I told him we both work and we can see the world without living in a van. He was adamant and he yelled at me for not being a supportive partner, and then I started to cry. He later told me we can think about this later, after the baby, because the hormones are preventing me from thinking straight, making the right decision. I said I was sure I wasn't going to change my mind. Later he reverted back to his old self, the guy I married, and said we could continue this conversation in a couple of months. Obviously if I had known this was his grand plan I wouldn't have had kids with him or married him, because that's not the lifestyle I want to live. As a nice guy and I don't know what to do. Do I just deal with this again when the time comes, or tell him it's a definite no? Is this an early midlife crisis? I'm really stressed every day and I've only been getting like 4 hours of sleep a day and I have to work. TL. Doctor, my husband wants to live the van life after our baby is born, to travel the world. I don't want to, and for that he says I'm not being a supportive partner. Since he has never said something about this before, it sounds like he is stressed out and searching out escapes, however unrealistic they are. Van life. So September 2020. I'm on my sailboat. Unrealistic escape vision plan RN. Get with the times, it's all about that solar river raft now. HUCKLEBERRYLIFE. Living in a van with an infant. I definitely wouldn't want that. If you are sure, then don't wait. Tell him straight and tell him that has nothing to do with hormones. But that is not a way you have ever wanted to live. It sounds a bit like he is panicking and fear the changes that the child will have on your life. That can be helped, but it is important to address it now and not let it run rampant. If he sticks to it and so forth, I would consider if it shouldn't be the end of the relationship. Also, his action of standing in front of the door and ignoring your opinion is quite childish. Pushing it for later, saying you are hormonal and not accepting your decision, I would see that as a bit of a red flag. Blocking someone's way during an argument is more than childish, it's abusive. I can't think of a worse time to start living van life than now. Since the space is so small, most people living in a van rely on public bathrooms and showers at gym to keep clean. However, with the current crisis, most of those places are closed. Furthermore, the ones that are open are risky to go to each time you do. There's only so much you can do to sanitize a space that doesn't belong to you. And you will have a newborn who has no immune system. A regular common cold could kill an infant, let alone a superbug. Your husband is the one not thinking clearly. Put your child's health first. But really, if you do not want to live a van life, do not allow him to bully you into it. /this. If she's postpartum, there's gonna be a lot of blood to deal with, aside from the terrible idea of giving birth in the van. I cannot imagine having to deal with that in a van. Trying to find public restrooms just to change my pad that I've bled through because I gave birth recently. He later told me we can think about this later, after the baby, because the hormones are preventing me from thinking straight. Oh boy. My advice is to talk to him about why he all of a sudden wants to do this. Ask him, point blank, if he's having trouble adjusting / accepting the fact that life as you know it will be completely different from here on out. I think is the reason he is acting like this. I think he realized he could die any moment and he wants to travel before it. But pregnancy could also play a part in it. Maybe he realized that having a kid means the death of many things. I think the reality of life has just crashed down on him hard and he's looking for a way out. As you have already outlined, he needs to choose you and the life he promised you or the van. Hopefully after the baby comes he will be so wrapped up in being dad that this will go away. If not, lay down your boundaries and tell him to respect them. These days I know people who do this in retirement instead. My neighbors are in their 70s and well on the way to visiting every country in the world. This doesn't mean he can't do these things later in life. I hope he forgets about it. Only time will tell. I hope I can help. I recently got a van and converted it. There is no way in hell I would try living in it. Has he ever traveled in a van? It is fun to get out and see places, but it is difficult. Infant? No way. Most of the van life people are struggling to work and make money. I think a compromise could be renting a van to start and doing a 1-week vacation knocking around. This is really awesome. Then he could buy a cheap van and convert it. He needs to understand a conversion takes 200 to 400 hours. He is going to get caught up in this Instagram and YouTube conversion, where they take these conversions way beyond what is needed and spend way too much $sign on them. 99% of vanners are weekend warriors. I'd be happy to coach him on all this and the van and conversion. He only needs to spend 6k on a van. My buddy just did a 5-day solo van trip to NH. He came back to his wife and job. That is how most van covered has us all stressed and bored. It could be a great project for him, and also you might like the van yourself occasionally. There is something neat about just hitting the road in a van. Living in it? No way for most. Message me if you think he could use a van comparator. First off, he did not just tell a heavily pregnant woman she is being irrational. Babies are messy. They don't sleep regular hours. They throw your life into disarray. And it is hard enough dealing with all those changes without everything else changing too. I think he is the irrational one. If you want to say no, then do it. You don't have to enable craziness. Hes blaming her hormones and them being the reason she's not going along with him. He sounds manipulative too. I think he is just scared of COVID. We can think about it later. Yes. After the baby is born and he can see the reality of family life. He should not put you at risk either. Giving birth is one of the most dangerous events in a woman's life. He should not be flippantly suggesting giving birth in the van. You must be tearing your hair out. Perhaps you should discuss his ludicrous suggestions with his mum or another person he trusts. Maybe they can get him to see sense as they want subject to their crazy hormones. Jesus. Good luck op. You can rent #VANLIFE vans for a vacation. It could be a good compromise. Plus actually doing it might make him reconsider if he really wants to. That's what I told him. Lol, this is so funny to me. My girlfriend and I moved into a tiny house with no running water. We decided to rent before buying a tiny house. After almost 2 years in the tiny house we decided to go even smaller and buy a van. We're the proud owners of a 2010 megabyte Sprinter 170 extension. It's going to have a shower and running water. But we lived in this tiny house before making the decision to purchase a van. If we hadn't, we'd likely be designing our own tiny house right now. There are just so many things to consider when going into this type of lifestyle. I don't know if he's really thought it all through. I also think it's a little shitty he's springing this on you now. Like, I wouldn't be with someone who wants to stay stationary, but I'm clear about that from the get-go. And I wouldn't conceive then go, oh, BTW, I want to see the world. That's where my priorities lie. I mean, is he talking about traveling for years? Months? Will the baby get to go to kindergarten? Like, what's his actual plan here? Plus, with the baby you need a more expensive build out. Better temperature control. Really good insulation. Space in the back will have to be reserved for a second row seat that's bolted to the frame for a car seat. Because the airbags in the front can literally kill a child. No joke. My van has a warning sticker on the glove box saying the airbags can kill children. What about diapers? We try to use as little waste as possible, but you won't have a washing machine, so disposables are out. So you're making a lot of trash. And where are you putting it? Public trash cans? Not if you're boondocking. So your build will need an AC. And likely a diesel heater, because babies are not good at temperature regulation. How many LiFePO4 batteries can you afford? What about your solar? The AC will likely have to be undermounted. So is he building a shield for it or buying one? You're looking at a 3000W inverter as well. How much water are you keeping on board? What about internet? Is he working remotely? Does he understand internet will likely cost a premium? We are planning on spending $350 a month plus $100 for our phones. How is he financially pulling this off? I mean, I just don't think he's thought this through. My so and I have dogs rather than children. To support this lifestyle and our conversion is going to end up costing $35k for the build out alone. And that's doing it ourselves. Babies are a whole other ballgame. I have a feeling he's getting cold feet about being a dad. Who the hell suggests living in a van during a pandemic after your wife has given birth to an infant? Even just him not considering your physical recovery in his stupid plan is insane. Which sleep deprived parent is going to drive the van carrying your newborn? This man is being selfish and naive as hell. Him accusing you of not supporting his whim during an extremely serious time is manipulative and childish. I wouldn't know where to go from there, but did have a serious discussion with him about his commitment to raising a family. He's a nice guy. Low ducking L. I told him I was not going, and I told him I was staying at a friend's house for a couple days. He blocked the door and told me I had to make a decision. Left square bracket. He reverted back to his old self. Right square bracket. Stay gone. He might have a little cabin fever plus oh shit a baby nerves but blocking you. Calling you hormonal/irrational. And then reverting back to his nice guy behavior. That worries me. Ugh. I hate it when guys go with, my perspective is the correct, logical one while yours is wrong because hormones. Your husband is an ass. So, COVID made him realize that he wanted to put a wife and baby into a van and travel? Question mark? Question mark? He does know that the pandemic isn't over yet, right? Is he having financial troubles that he's not sharing with you? I'd make sure that your home is secure and you are not in danger of eviction. You can still see the world without exposing yourself to tons of people. Not saying the husband is right about a van. A bus. Maybe. A huge trailer home on the back of a huge truck. Doable. Some single child families go 10 years this way. A van. Nah. But as for the pandemic, going to national parks, beaches, mountains, etc. could be an option. But that isn't a great idea in a van. Travel is dangerous because if you become infected and you are nomadic, contact tracing becomes a nightmare. Dealing with a baby in a home is already stressful enough, now imagine having to raise a baby in a small space like a van. It's not something that should be dealt with later on. It should be dealt with now. You should do what you feel is right for you and your baby. It's his dream, but he needs to realize that it'll be difficult with a child on the way. When our first son was born I got really into the Jack Reacher novels. If you don't know the story, Jack Reacher is an unusually large and strong man who travels around with nothing. He owns whatever clothes he was wearing at the time and a folding toothbrush. And whenever his clothes get too dirty to wear anymore he throws them in the trash and buys some more. Periodically in his journey from town to town he comes across somebody who is doing a bad and then he punches them until they stop doing it. Which is what the books are about. It was only later that I recognized that my extreme interest in these books was a sort of therapy for me. Becoming a father is very scary and a lot of responsibility and pressure. I buried myself in these novels about a guy who has no responsibilities and no pressure on him as a way of relieving the mental strain. I hope very much that your partner is just has a more extreme version of what I had, because if he does, then he can grow out of it the way I did. His behavior is not okay, and putting this kind of pressure on you is loathsome. But I hope you can be patient with him. It sounds to me like he needs help and encouragement. And I know that's a lot to put on you at this time, so maybe somebody else can help with it. But I have a feeling you'll get better results that way than from telling him to buck up, buttercup. Which I think would be most people's first impulse after reading a story like yours. Although if you choose the buck up buttercup route, you would be completely justified. This is a nice post. No is the correct answer. Fuck that. You want stability for you and your child and it's got zero to do with your hormones or whatever else he wants to blame it on. If he wants to go live the hippie van life then that's fine. Let him go have a blast. Stick to your guns. He's the one wanting to upset a soon-to-be new mother just to fulfill some wanderlust that's likely the result of him feeling the baby will be putting a stop to his freedoms in some shape or form. You've got a baby to support, and he should be doing everything he can to support both of you. NVM this BS. Give birth in the van? Exclamation mark. How big does he think their van is going to be? Question mark. 8 weeks after I gave birth to our first son, we started doing locums, or travel medicine, all over the US. That was fun. There is no damn way I would have gone traveling all over creation during the last month of pregnancy. Your husband needs to talk about this plan with a therapist. There is something going on other than his sudden dream of living the van life. If it were I'd show him the door and tell him to start living his dream. But then, I have no patience anymore. Your husband needs a reality check. If he cannot handle the parent life, then he needs to get out. As a father of 3, I can 100% say your man has shit the bed here. Some random backpack Europe on steroids lifestyle out of the blue. Fuck that. Best Adam Sandler you should have told me yesterday voice. Tell him the time for this discussion was before you were pregnant. He doesn't know shit about kids. If he thinks good energy is happening raising a baby in a van. I drove 18 hours with a baby once, and I'd gouge my ears out before doing that again. I can't even give you advice, because he's being completely ridiculous. Like, is he having a psychotic episode? For real, he sounds disconnected from reality. Does he have anyone in his life except you he could talk to? Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.